ventilation system to protect individuals. There are several in the White House complex. President Bush, we want to remind you, cut short his trip to Florida and is en route back to Washington.
Thank you, Alina Cho. You and I are going to step aside here.
That's right, but we're going to go down to Hampton.
Tyler Matheson and Martha McCallum will be here in just a few moments. But let's get back to Washington. Hampton Pearson with more details there as well. Hampton?
Well, Bill and Sue, in addition to what Alina was just talking about as far as the, number one, the statements from the top congressional leadership, as well as beginning scattered reports on the whereabouts of top Bush administration officials, we also do have a statement from SEC Chairman Harvey Pitt, basically saying that the commission has been and is in constant communication with each of the organized securities markets exchanges as a safety precaution while the
earlier that it was very quiet in Los Angeles, and it's the same situation here in Chicago. If you look down the street, we're just a block away from the Chicago Merc. You see a few people who are walking, presumably going home, taking the trains home, but this is nowhere close to what it's usually like in the middle of the day. Our building is right there next to the Sears Tower. We were basically told you can stay if you want, but wink, wink, we're shutting down some of the elevators, and I wouldn't stay in the building. And also, here's the Sears Tower. Here's the main concern for a number of people here in Chicago. There was concern that this might be a target. A couple of blocks from here is the Chicago Board of Trade, and as we've been talking about all day, the CBOT, where the treasuries are traded, as well as the Merc, where the futures are traded, those shut down trading about 9:30 Central Time. Rick Santelli covers the Board of Trade for us. Rick, give us some sense of what happened this morning as we were watching the events in New York and the trading slowly stopped.
Well, actually, the first thought on the Chicago Board of Trade is that it was a small plane that hit one of the towers. Trading was concerned, the markets were affected, but it wasn't until the second blast hit, the second building had a plane move into it, that the traders then started to put together the ramifications, what was occurring, and the talk that the New York Stock Exchange wasn't going to open, the Sears Tower was being evacuated, and the heads of all the Chicago exchanges talked, and the first thing they did was address the equity markets. The Dow futures and options were closed at 9:21 Eastern. What progressed then was the existing markets that were already open were then shut down at 10:15 Eastern, and from there, traders then moved out of the building, and you saw what started out as concern moved to a generalized, somewhat state of panic, especially some of the staff and operations. The traders were the last to leave the building, but at that point, it became a safety concern. The last thought on people's minds were the markets.
Okay. Rick, we're going to be watching this all day long, and I know you've been talking with people at the Board of Trade as well as at the Merc. All of the markets will be talking later today in a conference call to make some kind of a decision about whether or not trading will resume tomorrow or if it's going to be delayed a little bit further on. But I can tell you, Bill and Sue, it's very strange to be in a big city like this. Certainly, it's nothing like what's going on in Manhattan, but almost all of the major skyscrapers, the Sears Tower, John Hancock, the Aon building, which used to be the Amoco building here in Chicago, all of them have shut down, and really it's slowly becoming a bit of a ghost town at a time when it's usually thriving with a lot of business people. Bill and Sue?
Phil, thanks very much. Phil LeBeau there in Chicago. Bob Pisani is on the phone now back at the World Trade Center complex there in Lower Manhattan. What do you see right now, Bob?
Well, Bill, I'm standing on the corner of what was Liberty and Trinity Place. I am on the site of what is left of the South Tower. And as I left you about an hour ago, I came down the street and came onto the site along with the first wave of EMS people that were allowed in. There is an enormous pile, a 30-foot pile of wreckage that is now being scaled by emergency EMS people looking for any signs of life. Firemen are trying to scale this very small mountain of rubble here. It is rather difficult to breathe. There is still enormous amounts of smoke and debris in the air. And there is also a somewhat, I'm not sure if it's an unstable building to the left of me here, but the firemen are not getting near it, and they are a bit concerned about it as I see them not even going near it, just sort of staring at it at this point. But the sky is dark here, although the sun has come out as I have been walking around outside of the exchange, which is about a quarter mile away. On the site itself, which is where I'm standing right now, it is black all around us, and you cannot even see the sun right now. So, Bill, you can imagine they are just climbing it like ants climbing the side of a mountain now, looking for any signs of life here, and obviously a rather grim business going about. But this was within the last 20 to 25 minutes was the first time they were letting people actually on top of the mountain. There are big 30-foot tall twisted curtains of the side of the trade center that is standing here like some surreal scene in front of us, and I think they are a little concerned about the stability of that as well. They won't let anyone near it, but I am 75 feet right now watching a large number of firemen just starting to scale the side of this mountain of rubble looking for people. Bill?
Bob Pisani, Lower Manhattan there at the World Trade Center complex. Thanks.
And Rebecca Quick joins us now because we are all trying to put some perspective on this particular situation and put it perhaps in historical perspective. It obviously is one of the biggest disasters the United States has suffered, certainly domestically, if not the. And Rebecca Quick has had a chance to take a look back in history for us. Rebecca?
Well, Sue, as you said, this is clearly one of the greatest tragedies our nation has ever faced. People we've been talking to all day long can't help but compare it to the assassination of President Kennedy or looking back at the attack on Pearl Harbor, and clearly this is going to be a day that everyone remembers where they were when they heard the news. We have had, today has another dubious distinction in that there are very few events that can actually rock the nation's confidence enough to close the financial markets. Of course, in our past history, the markets have occasionally been shuttered. Earlier on our air, market historian Brian Taylor was explaining that during World War I, the markets actually closed from August through December of 1914. He said that there was some taking place off of the official markets, and that's why the stock exchange eventually reopened its door. And another time of tragedy, President Kennedy, when he was assassinated, it was a Friday, and on that day the markets experienced a sharp sell-off in the hour or so that it took them to actually shut down the stock exchange. Of course, in those days it took longer to shut down the exchange. But by the time the markets began trading again the following week, President Johnson had been sworn in, the nation was feeling more secure, and stocks rebounded, more than making up for the losses on that previous Friday. Today I spoke with Professor Jeremy Siegel over at the Wharton School of Business. He was saying that he often tells his students about the terror and the panic that was running through the nation during the Cuban Missile Crisis and that was also running through the financial markets. And when I spoke with him today, he compared today's feelings and today's emotions to just that feeling that he felt at that time. However, he did say that he thinks the markets should reopen again as soon as possible.
We all know that uncertainty drives stock prices down, and there is a tremendous amount of uncertainty that is involved here, and shock and disbelief and grief, and clearly this is going to weigh on the markets. I think they should open, though. I think we have to show the rest of the world that we're going to function as normally as possible.
Now, the markets, as we've been telling you, will be holding a conference call at 6 p.m. Eastern Time to determine whether there will be trading tomorrow. For the immediate time right now, Sue, though, we're all just focusing on the rescue efforts taking place across the country. Back to you, Sue.
All right, Becky. Thanks very much. Saw an email from a couple of viewers saying that maybe we all should put out our flags tonight as a little show of unity, if you have one outside the house there. Huh?
And if not, find one.
Yeah.
And put it out. Cuban President Fidel Castro is expected to weigh in. We're getting global reaction, really, to all of this, and Bonnie Barron's going to have more on that for us in just a second. But we are getting global reaction to all of this. The Australian Prime Minister has sent a letter to President Bush expressing his horror with the situation today. That's according to NBC News. In addition to that, Cuban President Fidel Castro is expected to make a statement on his national television tonight about this at about 6 p.m. Eastern Time, which incidentally is when we are going to get a statement, hopefully from the major U.S. stock exchanges. They are going to be holding a conference call, and we will be getting some more details on when trading here in the U.S. will resume. And a reminder that we are still waiting for the FBI to hold.
Joins us once again, kind of a quick look at what's been happening so far today. Michelle?
Hello, Bill. Military officials are now saying that the U.S. has not been attacked like this since Pearl Harbor, and now the U.S. is on high security alert as a result of the terrorist acts that hit New York and the United States today. It started around 9 a.m. this morning when a plane crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York. The FBI says it was a United Airlines plane, Flight 175 from Boston to Los Angeles. About 18 minutes later, the plane you see here, an American Airlines plane, Flight 11, also from Boston to Los Angeles, hit the South Tower. Moments later, the South Tower collapsed, and that was later followed by the North Tower. That is what you are watching there. Eyewitness accounts from the ground say that people were falling and jumping from the towers. And then another United Airlines plane, Flight 93 from Newark to San Francisco, crashed into western Pennsylvania. No official word yet if that crash was part of this terrorist wave as well. The White House has been evacuated, and President Bush is now, we have learned, on the ground in Omaha, Nebraska. Earlier today, he gave a statement on the situation while in Louisiana.
Make no mistake,